So I just watched this documentary by Leonardo DiCaprio called Before the Flood. It's been circulating on Facebook, and I was curious, so I hit play, and a couple hours later, I'm sitting here talking about it. I'm feeling a lot of emotions right now, and mostly it's this like uprising kind of energy inside of myself where I just want to stand up and like scream or do something, and there's this feeling of like not knowing what to do exactly because the problem is so fucking massive that it's like, what can I do? And the documentary ends talking about what we consume. I mean, that's a lot what it's about, but this reminder about consumption. And so I suppose the best thing I could do right now is to create something that can be consumed by others, an alternative food for consumption. So I'm sitting and making this video. I've got a lot of things I want to talk about, and I'm going to do my best to like condense it down and distill it and connect it to what I see happening right now. So today's Sunday, and on Tuesday is the presidential election. And where do we even start with that? Trump or Hillary? Would you like to burn your hand on an electric hot plate, or would you like to burn your hand on an open flame? I think that sums up my feelings about the options. What I find interesting, though, is that right now there's all this mass amount of information being released, mostly from WikiLeaks, from what I've seen, about Hillary's corruption. And it's clear to me that pretty much everyone I've spoken to and all the stuff that I'm exposed to on Facebook in terms of like friends and what I'm seeing in my Facebook feed and just like random people that I interact with and meet and ask questions out of curiosity, there's this theme of like the election is rigged. Like everyone I speak to feels like the election is rigged, that it's set up. And everyone's like, God forbid if Hillary wins, or God forbid if Trump wins. And so I like to ask those people, well, what if Trump wins? Or what if Hillary wins? Like, what is the God forbid that we're hoping won't happen regardless of who you vote for? And what I find interesting is that everyone knows that the election is triggered. Triggered. Is that the word? No, it's not. My mind's drawing a blank. Rigged. That the election is rigged. And there's a moment where a trigger is pulled, I suppose, in some form. But basically what I'm getting at is that even with knowing that it's rigged, people are going to vote for one of the two demons that have been presented to them as their options. And so what is interesting to me is that if the election is rigged, as so many believe it to be, then why would you vote in a system that's ultimately rigged? There's no point. Whether you vote or don't vote, the result will be the same if it's a rigged election. So the best that we could do, the most power that we can feel right now and come into is to vote for the person out of the two options, the hot plate or the flame, and vote for one of them just so that the other person who's worse doesn't get elected. And that's the fucking state of the country right now. And so the election is rigged. It always has been rigged, and it's especially rigged now. What's changed is that more people are aware now of the subversive agenda and the hidden agenda, and that something's not quite right. And yet, at a deeper level, what I see is happening, and this was really clear to me on the days prior to Halloween and on Halloween itself, when the veil between worlds, so to speak, was super thin, and I was seeing so many different pieces of the puzzle with supreme clarity and how they're all connected, and I was just so in it that I couldn't even talk about it really. But what I see is a massive covert deception that's occurring in the United States right now, and that's around the president. So here's the biggest fuck you in history, in my opinion, or one of the biggest fuck yous. It's, let's make it blatantly fucking obvious that the U.S. election is rigged. We'll let the information out. We'll deny it. We'll pretend like it's not true. We'll blame Russia. We'll do whatever we need to do. But like, the information is out there. Massive amounts of people are exposed to it. They know, they can feel it in their heart that something is not right. And then what do? They go out and vote. And then regardless of their vote, a particular agenda is triggered into action, aka a particular president is appointed. It's not elected, the president is appointed by this power system or this control system that's at play and behind the scenes. And a president is elected. And here's my forecast. That president that will be elected is Hillary Clinton. Who better for the control system to put into power than Hillary Clinton? With all of the information that's out there, with the blatant fucking proof that she's a monster, for her to actually get elected, despite the knowledge of the US population, that's the biggest in history. Because then what do? What will we do? How willing are we to stand up for the fact that we know corruption is at play? Are we going to just go back to business as usual? Or are we just going to go into our job and say, oh, well, Hillary's president now, I guess let me just go, go get my groceries and pretend like nothing's happened and go to work tomorrow and let my life be the same as it was when Obama was president? What can we really do? So the reason that this is the biggest fuck you is because it's actually illuminating the collective shadow of powerlessness. We are so deeply powerless. I am powerless. You are powerless. Every person in the United States is powerless. And Leonardo DiCaprio, if he saw this video, would say, no, we're not powerless. We are the ones in power. And I agree. We are also powerful. And we're only powerless when we're operating within the architecture and the structure of a system that's designed to reflect back to us our powerlessness. There is no power in the people when you're playing part in a system that is engineered for you to be powerless in it. We can't win. Only they can win when we're playing their game. It's rigged. That's what rigged means. If we want to come into our power and be powerful, it's not by all standing up and being a great citizen and going to the polls and voting. Fuck that. It's not what it's about. It's about saying fuck that. Fuck the voting. It's so rigged. It's such bullshit. It's so set up that I am not going to take part in that game. I'm not even going to vote. I'm not even going to waste my time. Instead, I'm going to go here. I'm going to focus here. I'm going to play a different game. And in the different game, the other game that I'm going to play, I'm actually empowered and powerful, not just because I am by my very inherent nature as a sovereign citizen born into this planet, free, breathing, alive, but because I'm consciously electing and choosing to not play a game that has me set up as a powerless pawn. That's what it means to come in power. So right now, this collective shadow of you're fucking powerless is being exposed. And the thing is how many of us are willing to embrace that we are, in fact, powerless? Because if we can embrace our shadow and say, fuck yeah, I'm powerless. My vote doesn't mean shit. And your vote doesn't mean shit either. If I can embrace that, if I can accept that, as I've done and as I hope you will do or have done, then we can say, fuck that game. I don't want to play that game. We could turn our backs to it and walk away. And the more of us that do this, the more of us that stand collectively together in our powerlessness in a game where we're designed to be powerless, we become empowered to play a game or that's architected for us to be in power. And that's the game where we stand up, where we say no, where we say, how about this instead of this? How about no? I'm just not even going to play your game. Now, it's easier said than done. I realize the own inherent limitations in what I'm saying. What does this other model look like? This other system, this other game that we can play? I don't know. And I think that's what the conversations are about that are happening right now in like alternative movements, is like, what does it look like when we don't play that game, but we play a new game that hasn't been played before? And I don't know what that is. The other night I felt a strange feeling, and the way I described it to my partner was that, you know, let's say in Indonesia there's an earthquake, and there's a tidal wave. The people in Hawaii, they're fine. People in Indonesia are suffering from the earthquake, but the people in Hawaii who know that that earthquake has produced a wave know that that wave will in time come and land on its shores. And so that's how I felt. I think it was Friday night. In the middle of the night, I kind of felt like an earthquake had happened somewhere, an earthquake in consciousness had occurred, and that I was like Hawaii in that I could sense like something very deep and profound has happened, and there's a wave that's coming, and soon it will hit the shores of my consciousness and create turbulence of some kind, whether that's mental, emotional, physical, I can't say, but I think that right now what I was experiencing was a fractal for what's being experienced right now in the collective conscious, which is that we know that these times are dire, these times are profound and significantly important, and we as a collective are at the most powerless state that we've ever been at. And this whole presidential election is really showing us how powerless we are in this game that we've been playing that's been destroying our lives and ultimately destroying the planet. And so we're at this time where like massive change is coming. The wave of change is coming, and we don't know what that means. We don't know what kind of destructive result this wave of change is going to create. But we can feel it in our hearts. We can feel that times are changing. We can feel that times are turbulent. There's very little to hold on to right now. There's very little to grasp onto. And we can create an illusion that there is, you know, by creating a little bubble that we live in, until that bubble bursts with a tsunami of change. And then suddenly the things that we thought the world could give us to make us feel secure were never really ours to cling to. And so there's so many ways to talk about this, and so many lessons and keys and principles in what I'm sharing. And the one that becomes apparent to me is spirituality, the need to find home within, the need to be able to retreat and find refuge in our hearts and in our connection to ourselves and to spirit, whatever you may call that. You know, the need to protect ourselves from climate change, not by creating carbon taxes or not by, you know, instilling laws to protect different areas of the planet. That's all well and great, but to protect ourselves from climate change, to protect ourselves from work change, to protect ourselves from social change. You put on whatever you want before change, but to protect ourselves from change, we must learn to find home within. So that whatever's happening outside of us, we have the power to find refuge within, to retreat within, and to be at peace and feel safety within, even when we're in unsafe circumstances. And this is like the journey of life. This is the spiritual work. I made a video last week about Standing Rock, and I want to make another comment about that. That it may appear that Standing Rock is about the water and the earth and the land, and I know it appears that way, and that's what people are saying, but I'm going to say bullshit. I'm going to call bullshit on that and say it's not really about the land. It's not really about the water. It's not really about the air. We can say that, and that could be our rationalization for actually uprising, and that's great because we all need a reason or a practical cause to attach to actually get us up from our fucking slumber. And so that's what it is. It's the Dakota Access Pipeline. But the truth is, it's not really about the pipeline, and it's not really about the protection of the land and the water. What it's actually about is what's behind that. And it's this sense of powerlessness. We are tired of being powerless. We are tired of having it put into our face, like right up in our face. You're so fucking powerless that we're going to put into office the person who is a blatant fraud, who's a blatant monster, who's blatantly corrupt, and who the people blatantly don't support. We're going to put her into power so that we can show you how fucking powerless you are. And so what's happening now is this uprising. There's this energy of like on the planet of like a collective uprising, and you see it. It's been happening all over the world in all these countries, all these revolutions that aren't aired on mass media that you have to dig to hear about. It's happening. And this tsunami is coming into the United States right now, and it's penetrating into the Standing Rock. And so what's happening at Standing Rock is a revolution. It's an uprising. And we have some excuse for what that uprising is, but what this is people have been repressed and suppressed for decades, for centuries, who've been fucking squashed. And this is about the people actually coming into their power and saying, fuck you. I'm going to stand up, and you're going to try to stop me, but you can't stop me. And when there's only 100 or 200 or 300 people there, sure, it's a lot harder to stand up in the face of a militarized police force, which has every technological need they have to suppress the people or to suppress an uprising or to suppress a revolution. But when there's hundreds of thousands and millions of people in the United States, 300 million population, if just a fraction of that population actually congregated and started standing up together and saying, we're not going to play this fucking game anymore, this game where we're powerless and you're powerful. Instead, now we're playing a game where I'm powerful and you're powerless, and I don't give a fuck if you're in a position of power. That doesn't mean anything. In our game, you're in a position of nothing. And this has happened in countries around the world, and where it needs to happen most is in the United States right now. But we live in a country that is doing everything in its power to prevent, to hold the ball below the surface of the water, because the moment that ball pops up, the way we know life in the United States is done. It's done. The economy collapses. I mean, my mind right now can't go into what that looks like exactly, but the point is that as this ball rises to the surface, massive change happens. And this is the kind of change that the control system is afraid of. And that's why we have a militarized police, to keep it at bay, to keep it from happening. Because if it were to happen, the people who are in power would be the people in prison, and that would be a problem. And so a pipeline, water, land, Native Americans, I get it. By appearances, it's about like, native rights. Like, we have a right to this land. It was the land given to us, and all this like shit. It's like, yeah, I get it. It is about that, but it's really not about that. It's really about people coming into their power and saying, we are the ones in power, not you. We're not going to let the 1% or whatever the number is, or these few people dictate the ultimate direction of me and my family and my country and my people and my culture. This is, in the truest sense, what feels to me to be a revolution. And the question is, what are we going to do about it, individually and collectively? And so what I'm doing about it is making a video about it. And if this video makes sense to you, or if this video feels like it has a message of truth, or if there's just something in here that connects my heart to your heart, share this video. Get the fucking message out. I'm like tired of seeing about Standing Rock as if it's just about land and water. It's like, wake the fuck up. It's not about land and water. It's about people standing in their fucking power who've been smashed down and squished for centuries. This is about people who have lost their right to live, who've lost their right to access their fucking freedom, who've been told they can't live in places, who've had their forests burned down, who've had their fucking ice melted that they lived on. Like, this is about people who have been repressed and suppressed and pushed down and arrested and hidden for opening their mouths. And we're tired of it. We want to open our mouths. This is about expression. It's not even about the freedom of expression. It's just about expression. Freedom, the moment I came out of my womb, I was free until I wasn't. So there's a red pill and there's a blue pill. Which are you going to take? If you think that what's happening right now on this planet is just what you see, is just what the news is talking about, if you think there's nothing more happening beyond like Hillary or Trump and which one's going to, meet the demands of the public, like if you turn on the TV and watch the news like intelligently, if you're sitting at the airport tuned into the TVs that are tuned into the mass conditioning machines of CNN and Fox News or InfoWars, if you believe any of that stuff that you're listening to, then send me an email or write a message and I will send you a comfortable, more comfortable pillow and blanket so you can continue to sleep comfortably. Because everything we're being exposed to, everything we're being told is happening is not what's happening. And if you think it is, then either go back to sleep or wake the fuck up. There's so much happening that we cannot see with our eyes. That's beyond what we could see, beyond what we could smell, beyond what we're hearing by all the leaders who are telling us that there's something happening. And yet, it's abundantly clear to me as I sit knowing that this wave of change is coming. And maybe it's Tuesday, maybe it's already started, maybe it's when Hillary gets elected, maybe it's when who knows what happens. But the point is that there's this tidal wave in motion and it's moving across the planet. And the United States could attempt to insulate itself and insulate the people from being exposed to the tidal wave, but it's just a matter of time. Consciousness can't be insulated from moving into the minds of all. We're in a field of consciousness. So as that field grows larger and larger and larger, we cannot turn the news on. We cannot read a newspaper. We could not talk to our friends about what's happening on the planet. We could have no idea what the fuck is happening on the planet. And yet we can feel in our heart this wave of change that's coming because we're in the field of the collective consciousness. And the collective consciousness on this planet right now is in a vibration of change and fear. Fear of that change and fear of instability and fear of collapse and fear of. And so what do? I know what I do. I wake up every day and I meditate. I wake up every day and I do whatever I need to do to connect to my heart. I go in nature and I spend time in nature. I spend time talking to the people that I love. I do my work to look at and expose myself to what is actually happening on this planet, to raise my vibration, to raise my awareness to the truth, and to be like, holy fuck, this is what's happening. This is scary. And the best thing I can do is expose myself to it and build awareness of it and build the muscle inside of me so that I can look at it, so that I can actually be in a position to talk about it, so that I can be in a position to maybe do something about it. But to pretend like it's not there, to insulate myself as best as I can in a culture that is already trying to insulate me from it, no way. That doesn't work. That's setting yourself up for massive, massive catastrophe at a personal level. And so this process is scary and it's difficult. There's a lot of uncertainty and vulnerability. And it's like, welcome to the fucking game. Welcome to the game that you have to play if you want to come back into living as the powerful, perfect, whole, spiritual being that you are. There's no other way. This is the way. And no one said it was going to be easy. And I have to remind myself of that every day, because the more I become aware of, the more I sense into, the more I become attuned to in the collective field, the more reason I have to wake up every day and be depressed and hopeless and sad and melancholy and dark as fuck. Because if you look at what's happening on this planet, if you watch a documentary like Before the Flood, it's scary. It's scary what's happening on this planet. And to go and buy some t-shirts today at Uniqlo, or to go to Old Navy and like shop, or to go out to a restaurant and eat, or to turn on and watch a movie, or even to read a book is okay, and it also is creating insulation from what's really happening on this planet. And that's fine, I get it, because I do that. Yesterday I went shopping at LL Bean with my mom and Tom. And I bought stuff, and I went shopping at Whole Foods. This is the world we live in. Paradoxes, ironies, catch-22s. So it's part of it. And I spend a great proportion of my time sensing into what's happening on this planet and just tuning into it, because we can't change what we're unaware of. To make a change, we have to first become aware of that which needs to change. And so if we want to change what's happening on the planet, we need to raise our awareness to see that there's actually something that needs to be changed out there, but most importantly in here. So this is an inner game. This is about waking up within. This is about connecting, reconnecting to ourselves and to our divinity. And then as all systems start to come online, we can look around with new eyes and be like, holy fuck. I see the Christmas rope lights that are hanging right here on the door, right over there, right? But when I look at those lights, actually what I see are, tar sands. Huge, huge acreage of tar sands that are used to extract oil to fuel these lights. Or maybe it comes from a coal plant, or who knows what it comes from. Natural gas. But the point is there's Christmas lights. But when I look at those Christmas lights, I look at the destruction and decimation and infrastructure that's allowing me to have a little bit of light right now. And what happens is our senses start to turn on, and we begin to perceive more than our five senses are trying to convince us is reality. There's so much more to reality. There's so many more layers to reality. There's so many more dimensions to reality. And so what dimension of reality are you perceiving from when you open your eyes? There's so much information, and there's so much to digest and process and sit with that it can be completely numbing. And so for each of us, we need to find our balance. We need to find that balance between I need to like numb out for a little bit and like take a break, and I need to like dive back in and see what's really happening. And so as we incrementally move up and build our awareness, we need to balance it with times of being unaware, so to speak, or shutting down. Maybe that's meditation. That's maybe going for a walk in nature. It doesn't have to be through the consumption of mass media. It doesn't have to be through the consumption of goods that are created at the expense of the environment. We can numb out. Some might call it numb out, or I would just call it reconnect to our hearts through spiritual practices and mindfulness-based practices, by spending time with ourselves, by taking a nap with our pet next to us, going for a walk in nature, meditating, giving ourselves a crystal bath or a salt bath. Self-care. Self-care is how we numb out from a planet that is fraught with problems. Fraught is an understatement. We are living in a fucking ocean of catastrophe and the threat of far greater catastrophe. And so self-care is absolutely critical right now. Self-care is what helps us to be with what we begin to see as we raise our awareness. So, I think I've said everything I've wanted to say. This is a long video, and maybe no one will watch it. Maybe a few will watch it, and maybe it should have been broken into several videos. I don't give a fuck. This is just how I did it. Listen, don't listen. This is what felt right, and this is what felt in flow for me. And of course, that's the game we're playing here, is to learn to live in harmony with ourselves and with the planet, and to learn to do what feels right for us, and to do the things that are in alignment with what's best for the planet and for our brothers and sisters. And so, yeah. I have this one other thing, is that I want to acknowledge those who are standing at Standing Rock, like literally there. Just because I've said what I've said doesn't mean that I'm not grateful and appreciative and respectful of what the people who are on the ground at Standing Rock are doing. They're setting in motion a precedent for uprising and revolution that the United States hasn't experienced in a very long time. And so I respect them. And I just want to shine a little bit of light that there's far more happening there than police and indigenous peoples and protesters battling it out about a pipeline and about natives honoring the contracts and agreements that they have about their land rights. There's far more happening there. There's the seed of a revolution happening. And so I honor and respect those people. And I have friends there, and I love them. Brittany, love you, and I respect what you're doing. It takes courage, and it takes courage for all the people who are there going right up against the system in its most formed way. Militarized police. That's like the fucking mass, the center of expressing this system that we're coming up against, this virus, this collective virus of suppression. That virus is seen under the microscope of Standing Rock. And so I truly respect and honor and love all of the brothers and sisters who are there standing and fighting, being the antibodies, so to speak, to this virus that we've all been stewing in for generations. Please share this video. If you know someone who this video would benefit, if there's someone you want to help to wake up, if there's somebody who you want to shine a little bit of light towards or help to see some more of the truth, or someone whose buttons you would like to press, because button pressing is a good thing and I'm actually good at that, then share this video, send them this video. Like, this is part of it. It's as simple as hitting share. If that's the most that we can do right now, is to share a beautiful video or to share a message of truth or to share an image, then fucking share away, like away. Like whatever it takes. Like there's no action that's too small right now. Every action is significant. And so I invite you to share this video or write a post and share this video and write why this video spoke to you, and let a little bit of your truth out. Let a little bit of what's in your heart and what you've been carrying and the fucking anger that you have. Let it out. We need to start standing up like Standing Rock. We need to start standing in our truth. We need to start expressing or continue to express what we're not okay with. Because for as long as we pretend like we're okay with shit that we're not okay with, we're going to keep fucking losing. And I'm tired of losing. I'm tired of being fucked. It's time we do the fucking. So fuck away. Fire away. Share away. Like away. Thank you.